We are live. Welcome, everyone, to It's Time to Excel, where we inspire and we ignite the possibilities that are all around us, especially for our fellow small business owners, because there's just so many hats that we juggle on an everyday basis. And I am so honored and blessed to have Katrina with us here today, because we're just going to have some fun, because this is just entertainment. We were just kind of talking a little bit before we jumped on here, and life is crazy right now. In fact, I know she's in the middle of a move. So I'm just so thankful that you took some time and was willing to come join me today, as we just find ways to inspire and ignite those possibilities for our fellow small business owners. And specifically today, we're going to really dive into websites, because you are just a website extraordinaire. I mean, I think, what is it? Webmaster extraordinaire. I knew I'd get the
Webmaster extraordinaire.
Right. Absolutely.
I think it really well, Janet.
And that's part of it, is just, you know what, we do the best we can. We keep on moving and we rely on the strengths of others. And that's why I have so much fun with this show and having an opportunity to have guests come on with me, just like yourself, and being able to share our strengths with others.
Yep.
And I know today that you're looking for having an opportunity to kind of talk about a website, because a website can be a really good tool for you. It's just one of those additional tools.
Yeah.
I'm always talking about money. Make sure you got that system in place to make sure that tool is available to you so you can make good decisions. And I think the same thing goes. Your website is a tool, but it helps in a lot of different ways. Let me just kind of go in there and kind of say, I'm going to go the bio. I'm going to read the bio because it's just safer that way. Because there is one thing in your business that, you can get leads. Website's a great lead generator.
Yes.
It makes you money, because the cool thing about a website is it never sleeps. Yep. It's 24/7. We get sleep. Thank goodness. I need a couple hours. I don't know about you, but I need a couple of hours. But Katrina Garcia is with us here, and she's with KG Website Designs, and she's helping you to build that list, to grow your business, make more money, all through your website. There's no hypes. There's not hard sales. No, just simple results. She's got over 40 plus years of experience. You're going to admit up to that one. And our team, but that's with your team. And and that's why we've just connected. We've gotten an opportunity to network together and share quite a bit. And we just found that we have the very similar type, personalities, the whole 9 yards. And it's just been a lot of fun to kind of get there and see what we can do. But you can get a lot more out of your website with some little tips and tricks. And I think that's kind of where you're going to share a little bit today and kind of give us some guidance on that.
Yes.
So Katrina, introduce yourself. Any more that you want to add?
I'm Katrina Garcia, like Janet said, and thank you again, Janet, for having me here today. Absolutely. I very much appreciate it. And like you said, our websites work for us 24/7, but a lot of times we ignore them. We don't give them love. They just sit there on a shelf and get dust, and we don't dust them off. And that could be a big detriment for your business, but also for the SEO, because with Google, they really reward those that continually update their website, continually put things on it and change the content, because that means that you're paying attention to it. So it's not only just to put new things on there and show your audience what you can do, how you can help them, but it helps you with the SEO as well. So it's kind of that. Can
you talk a little bit about SEO? Because I think a lot of folks get confused on that.
Yeah, SEO is a search engine optimization, and it's a bunch of algorithms that get very confusing on the background. They're always changed with social media and everything. And basically, it's just a conglomerate of numbers and so forth to see how high up you go on the realm, I guess you would say, so that when you come up, most of the time you want to be on the first page. But you'll notice that on any search engine, which is your Google, Yahoo, Edge, Safari, all of those that you look up, a lot of times you'll see the top 3, but those are ads. They've paid to be on that top 3, but you still want to be on the first page, because you want people to constantly, okay, I can't find you. Where are you? Can't find your website. So, and there's a lot of tips and tricks along the way that you can do that. But one of those that's really key is keeping your website up to date and constantly going in and seeing what needs to be tweaked, what needs to be changed. Because as business owners, our businesses change. So should our website. and it should reflect that. The other key thing too is having content that's relevant to your audience, because a lot of times we'll put content out there and we'll use our acronyms and we assume that our audience knows those acronyms and they don't.
They
Plus,
don't.
we also make that assumption that our audience knows more than we give them credit for. Sometimes they'll know more or know less. And I know this sounds, I don't even want to put this as lightly as possible. They say you want to put it at an 8th grade level, 7th to 8th grade level, and you'll capture everybody. And that doesn't mean that your audience has to dumb it down or anything. It just, you need to put it in simplified terms so that they can understand and know exactly what it is you can help them with.
And I think that's huge. I get that a lot, especially because being in the accounting world, I've got 20 plus years of accounting. I started talking about funding an account and they're looking at me like, what do you mean funding? And I wasn't even thinking about it because we fund accounts all the time. And and I think that's the same thing in your websites as well. As we're kind of looking through this, when you've got stuff out there, if I start talking about funding accounts, I'm going to glaze most people over and they're going to go right past me. But if I say, look, this is just a tool to be able to use, and you've got to have money in the account to pay a bill, which is basically what you're doing.
Yeah.
And this is how you do it, then it makes, and it just depends. But that's a very valid point. And I think too often we speak our language that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to everybody else.
No. And it's funny because you'll be in meetings and people will talk their acronyms. You'll see people looking around going,
yeah, debits, credits.
What does that mean
in my world?
Did she say?
Yeah, and they're trying to write it down. I don't know. And I think it's hard. And that's why even talking, because I know in the website, that's not my strength. This is why I take
numbers.
Somebody else does
numbers are not my strength either.
Give me QuickBooks any day. I'll take the debits and credits any day. As we're going.
And
you can keep SEO.
QuickBooks, Janet.
And you keep those algorithms in SEO. We'll be okay. But it is very important. People trying to find us.
Here's the thing too that it mystifies me is people say, I don't need a website. I've got social media. But here's the other thing that people don't realize is the whole thing about your business is building your list. And when you're on social media, you're not building your list, you're building their list because they own it. You don't. So you have to have a place where you can capture those leads and then be able to, finesse those leads and show them how much you care and what you can do for them and so on and so forth. And you can't do that through social media. Granted, social media is part of the whole package when it comes to your business. Sure. It's something that you have to do. But it's not just the one thing that you do. And I know a lot of people say, well, I have all these likes and I have all these people following me. That's great, but are they buying from you? That's the key thing. You may have millions of followers, but if nobody's buying from you, yay, you got followers, but you're not making any money. So,
and that's the ultimate goal, I'm thinking. Yeah. I think that's why we got in business, isn't it?
Exactly. Well, we got business to help people too, but it's funny and I used to be one of those, when you'd walk into a networking event, most people would say, well, why'd you get into business? Oh, to help people. But in reality, we really did get into business to make money.
Yeah, because I like I want to be able to have some little freedom to my hours. Although somehow I think I'm working more hours than I did in corporate.
Yeah.
I may have misconstrued that a little bit.
But it's a lot more fun, I'd have to say. It's a lot more fun.
It gives me flexibility. And that was my biggest reason for getting into when I was taking care of Dad. I mean, he couldn't understand because he was getting dementia. He always say, how do you get so much time off? What I couldn't tell him was I was working half the night to go and take him.
I know.
But you know what? As a business owner, I didn't have to ask for permission. And that's exactly what you're saying. But your website, if it's already working for you, and can you start with something simple? Would you say if you're just starting out, what would your suggestion be?
I think if you're going to start with something simple and you don't want to get overwhelmed. And there's still a lot of options out there that you can try and do yourself. If you don't have the funds to hire somebody like our company, you can still put something together. And so I'd recommend just put a one-pager together that at least tells people what you're about, how you can help them, and a way to capture those leads. And as we know, in the back end, you have to have systems to do that, where if you're having them fill something out, and a lot of times people will see those pop-ups and they say, oh, I hate those pop-ups, but those are where you get your leads. That's how you get people on your list, because let's face it, they're not just going to sign up to be on your newsletter. Not going to happen.
No.
So they want that freebie and that thing that they can really take away and utilize right now. That's the only reason they're going to give you their name and their email address. It has to be juicy. And sometimes we have to take our hat off and put our customer's hat on and think, okay, what would my customers really benefit from if I could give them this freebie to get their name and their email address so that I can start, talking to them later down the road.
And it may or may not be a good fit right now, but the trick is, and it's not really a trick, the fact of the matter is you've got to get their information. Yeah. You can't reach out and follow up if you don't have their information.
No. And you have to have that system in the background too. And that could be MailChimp or any one of those, because it's what, and I'm going to go with the jargon here. It's this CRM, which is a client resource management. And all that is just a suppository that holds all of your clients' name and so on and so forth, so that now you can send emails out to them on a regular basis. Hey, we've got this coming up. Would love for you to join us. Hey, we've got this new product out. Would love for you to check it out. Hey, take a survey. We'd like to know how we're doing, how we can improve, so on and so forth. These are all ways that you can touch your clients and let them know that, number one, you're thinking of them, and number two, that you're offering them things that can help them in their business and what they need.
And that's huge. And I know personally, I use Zoho. I'm a partner with Zoho as well. That's one of the areas that I find it, because it had a little bit of everything and I could add on the pieces I wanted. But as you said, it's that system.
Yeah.
It is that
and there's
system.
A ton of them out there. I mean,
oh my goodness, there's a list and a half out there.
Yeah.
You've got to find one. I always talk about the best system. What is the best system? I get that question all the time, and I always have the same exact answer. So I don't know if you've heard or not, because I don't know, we've actually talked about that, but I get that question. I'm like, you know what? The best system is the one you're going to use. End of story.
Yeah.
It's
the one that works best for you. Exactly.
Yeah. And you're going to use it. It may work best, but if you are not going to use it, it's not the best one for you.
No.
And I've had some issues with that. And that kind of is like your website too. You want to make sure it's working for you.
Yes.
And not really against you.
Yes. Which a lot of people do is they put these websites up there and then they leave them for years. And what people don't realize is, even though WordPress is a beautiful format and there are other ones out there, you have to do updates on a lot of these things. And if you don't do those updates, your website can go down and can crash. And now you're wondering, I don't understand what happened. All it takes is one little plugin that you didn't update, and now your website's gone down. Or now you've got somebody that's hacked into it because they've been watching. You haven't been updating it. So because you haven't updated it, now they get to get in and start to work on it. So it's one of those key things that is just, you really have to watch those things and pay attention to them, especially with the maintenance piece. And a lot of people forget about that. They just put it up and forget it and think, it's okay. I don't have to worry about it.
Well, and I think you get busy juggling all those other hats too.
Yes.
And I think that's a part of it, which is why I think it's so important to partner up with folks, and that's where we're always connecting folks. And it takes a village. We cannot do this business on our own. No. As much as I would love to, and as much as I just can't. And I've had to learn to let go of some of that.
The dog's barking. Let me.
It's all good. It's just one of those days. He wants to join us. It's okay. I mean, I've got 4 of them. Usually somebody's talking.
Work on the house, so I apologize.
That's part of it. Oh yeah, he's just going to join in. See, he's saying that it's important to get your website updated. This is in doggy language.
Yes. Yes.
And going from there.
Sorry.
Welcome to life.
I know.
That's what I always say. This is just part of life. And anybody that's coming on with my 4, I've got 4 of them here. So invariably somebody's yipping in the background.
Yeah, it happens. It happens. That's what happens when you work from home, right?
Exactly. And I'm just grateful for it. I'm still grateful for it because, a lot of times they're much better staff.
Yeah. Yeah.
But kind of going from there. So, okay. So we're talking a little bit about what can work for you, like the 24/7. So that's always out there.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit more about these lead magnets. What types of things do you see that would be useful?
The lead magnets, like we talked about, was the pop-up. That's one of them. Another way too is to, like, if you've got an event coming up, or maybe you've got something else that you want to push them into, like you've got a webinar, a simple webinar, or you've got a podcast that's coming up and you want them to be a part of that podcast because you've got somebody on there that's just fantastic and has
There
lots
you
of good
go. They need to
information.
join us.
So these are all ways to get leads because it's a way for them to sign into your list. And that way now you're, like I said, you get that opportunity to keep following up with them and kind of finessing those leads and letting them know that you're thinking of them and that they're at the top of your mind. And I know as an entrepreneurs, a lot of times that's really hard for us to do because like Janet said, we've got all of these hats we're trying to wear. And a lot of times we'll put one on and then we take the others off and then realize, oh, I got to put this one on now, or I've got to put this one on now. And things kind of fall through the cracks. So as we were talking about, systems is another way to kind of really help with all of that. And there's a lot of them out there in regards to one-stop systems. And like Janet said, it's got to be one that you're going to be able to use, that you'll use on a regular basis. And I always recommend too that it's easy for you to use. If it is so confusing for you to figure out, then it's not the best option for you. It's got to be really simple. And it doesn't necessarily need to be one system. It could be a combination of things too.
Mm-hmm.
It's just finding that right, recipe, so to speak, and making sure that everything ties in together with your website. Because that's a hard thing too, is sometimes people will get a system and find this doesn't really talk too well to this, or it doesn't talk very nicely with this. And now they've got these glitches going on. So that's another piece too that you always have to think about when you're putting your website together and your systems. Do they talk together nicely, or are they kind of glitchy and it's not working so well?
And that's a very valid point. Sometimes, and that's what helps having somebody that has the programming background, because some of it is some programming on the backside. See, he agrees with me.
Yeah.
There is a program, and I'm pretty techie. I mean, I'm almost dangerously techie, but it's very dangerous. But I don't understand a lot of that. I've had to get some support in that area because I'm like, all right, this says it's supposed to work to the website. What am I missing? And most of the time there's what they call coding in the back door. And it's just been amazing stuff that you would understand, just like when I'm talking debits and credits and people are glazing over, you're understanding that coding, those URLs or whatever, all that domain stuff that goes along.
Yeah.
But you just tend to glaze over. And that's exactly what you do for your clients too, is you take all that off their plate and you take care of it for them. So all they need to do is provide you a little bit of information, novel concept, and you can take that information and turn it into a working website that's going to be beneficial for them 24/7. It's going to let you gather those leads and help you figure out how can you get the connections together.
Yeah.
And as you said, that's huge. I mean, you want it to dump, quote unquote. You want it to be seamless between website to your CRM. Exactly. And then what do you do when you get into the CRM? I've run into issues there. Okay, you're into the CRM. Make sure you have those systems in place as well.
Well, and that's a big thing too, is a lot of times people do that. They'll put the CRM together. They've done the first thing where, okay, let's say that they've given this great freebie away. They've got their name and their email and so forth. And now it's just sitting there on a list.
Yep.
And they haven't sent anything else. And now it's just getting crickets. And they've got this whole list, and we're all guilty of it. We've got this list of 800. And you say, oh, I've got a list of 800. Great. Have you talked to them lately?
Wait, what?
Well,
was I supposed to? I sent him email. I was going to say that's what I get. I sent him an email.
So, and that's part, and as a business owner, it gets very overwhelming because as we know, we have to do the social media. We have to be seen on podcasts and so forth. We have to go out there and we got to have our website set up and our presence set up. And then we have to get systems in place. And then we have to make sure that our clients are hearing us and making sure that we're providing things for. It's a lot to do, especially if you're that one person that's doing all of that. And sometimes it's very difficult. And I'm learning the hard way, as we all do, that you have to hire somebody on to help you. Because even though you don't have that money, you don't think you have that money up front, as soon as you hire that person on, it's amazing how much of all this money starts to come in. And now you're paying for them with no problem. And you're thinking to yourself, oh my God, I don't know how I could have done it without. Or, you know what I'm saying? Huge. So it's all of these things that are involved in that. And that's all part of your lead process, is trying to get involved with your clients and making sure that they know that you're involved with them and that you're sharing these things with them and that you care about their wants and their needs and that type of thing. And that truly you want to provide the best value for them. And that's not always an
And
easy thing to do.
no, not at all. And I think it is a challenging thing, a lot of times. But I think you hit it right on the head. And we were talking a couple of weeks ago about delegating. And
Yep.
what can you delegate? And they've been ripping things out of my finger. It's hard because when you're so used to doing it on your own, you have a certain way of doing it. Sometimes that's a challenge. I mean, when I was in corporate, I was good at delegating. I found it a little more trickier here. So it's been a little, and I had to put back on that corporate hat that I was trying to get around, but I had to put it back on because I'm to that point now where I did need to delegate stuff out. And how could I delegate it out in parts? And one of those was specifically what projects or what pieces could I let go of?
Yeah.
And one of mine was social media initially. That was the first thing I let go of because I just don't like to, I get down rabbit holes. So I don't need to be sitting on Facebook, on LinkedIn, but I need to have that presence. So that was one of the biggest areas. I'm like, I need help. Because I can't figure out how to get everything going. And I think as business owners, that's challenging. So by supporting each other, that's how we can do it. And just like the website, I had to get help on my website and get that opportunity. And we started with a one page, just get it out there.
Just starting simple it's better
and
than
it's
nothing.
an overhaul
Definitely
mode
better
now.
than nothing.
And
it's interesting that you're talking about delegating because on my end, I think with people such as my career for the most part was the one that everybody delegated to. So in my mindset, it was very difficult for me to try and figure out how to delegate things because I was the one everybody delegated to.
Right.
I didn't have that luxury that when I was working, because I was the administrative person, or I was the one that worked for the VP or the director. I was the one that got everything done. So a lot of times as business owners, when if we've worked in corporate before, sometimes we can take that hat with us, but sometimes in my case, I had to let it go because if I took it with me, then it's not going to serve me because I was serving everyone else. So I think as business owners, sometimes that works well for us and sometimes not so much. So it just depends on your background. Like with you, Janet, you were in a different position than I was. So and it works for you because now you realized you had to start delegating and you had to put that corporate hat back on because you were already used to delegating when you were in corporate. So I think
haven't done
and as business owners, you just have to kind of figure out what's going to work best. And that's the key thing. I think you can take training, you can go to conferences, you can do all of these things. But I think the best recommendation, even since we're talking about websites, is just taking those pieces that work best for you, that you can manage, and just doing what you can and trying your best not to worry about, oh my God, there's this whole pile over here. How am I going to get to that? You can only do so much.
Right. And you got to start where you're at.
Yeah.
And that was one thing, as I was pulling on more clients, I was getting more, I'm like, okay, it is time to take a breath. And really what is consistent, because there's consistencies there that I do automatically. And that's part of it is what are you doing that is, I think looking at that, and I think websites is a key point of it. As I said, there's a lot behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I had to realize that wasn't my strength. Could I figure it out? Of course I could. Should I be spending my time to do that?
No.
Is it my time a little bit more valuable than that? Because I think we forget to value our time. So if I'm spending time figuring all this out, I'm taking away from serving my clients with my strengths.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the keys is how are we serving? And sometimes we got to get those support structures in. And, websites is a perfect opportunity to do that. And that's what you do for them is you help them to put all of that content in a more bite-sized options or whatever you want to say, where it's visually that you're going to attract the people that want to work with you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's the hardest part too, is working with business owners, just like I'm sure with yourself. They have a mindset of what things need to be. And so when they've been so used to doing things on their own, when you're trying to give them suggestions because of your expertise and they came to you for that expertise, a lot of times we have a tendency, oh, well, I understand that you want me to do A, B, and C, but I've done it this way before and it's worked. And you ask them, well, how's that working in regards to, is it bringing in money?
No.
And is it doing this? And if it is working, then why did you come to? So a lot of times when we delegate, we have to let go. We have to learn to let go. We have to learn to trust. And I know, especially with websites, that's a hard thing, a pill to swallow a lot of times. And I'm sure in your business too, when it comes to books and financing,
Yeah,
it's a
finance
hard,
is real scary.
it's hard. It's hard
Mhm.
because a lot of times people will hire somebody on and it's not the best fit. And now they've been
Mhm.
burned. And that's what I've come across a lot with some of my clients is
Yeah.
they've spent all this money on a website that they absolutely hate and don't even want to share, which is sad because
Yeah.
the miscommunication happens somewhere. And I'm not saying I'm perfect for everybody, but you
None
really
of us
have
are.
to have that dynamic between your clients so that way they understand you, you understand them, and it's not just a, oh, don't worry about it, I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it, I'll take care of it.
And that's a very valid point. I always say, if, I don't mind doing books and I don't mind helping you with doing those books. However, I can't just sit here and do books. I
Yeah,
need you as the owner involved. Let me train your staff if you want to bring somebody on. Let me take care of this piece. But at least once a month, once a quarter, we're going to touch base. Otherwise, I'm not the best fit for you because I
yeah,
want to be looking at the numbers. It's not just okay to just put them in my world. I want you to understand them. I want you to question me. I want you to say, hey, wait a minute, why did you pick this? Well, I thought this. And half the time I find out that, well, that's what I thought, but this is what it was. I didn't know any different because I wasn't in their industry.
yeah,
Back to those not quite having the same language.
yeah. I agree.
And I think that's a challenge. And that's where I think it's always been a blessing for me is I kind of speak the small business of, having that so many years, but I also speak an accounting language. And I've been blessed to be able to usually blend the two, just like you're saying, is you're
Yeah,
able to take what the business owner wants and translate it into a website that's going to help them to get where they want to go.
exactly, exactly.
And
But
that's
and
huge. So it is working 24/7 for them.
it's like a marriage, it's like a marriage. It's kind of like a
Mm-hmm.
give and take, and there's some compromise and and you have to try and figure out what's going to work best for both parties.
Sure.
So it's something that you want to invest in, that it's an investment for your business. And
Oh,
so
absolutely.
you want to make sure it's a good investment, and you want to make sure it's an investment that's going to work best for you, and that they're talking your talk. They're not just saying, oh yeah, we can do
Mm-hmm.
that, we can do that, don't worry, we've got it, yeah, no problem. And then you're done and you're like, wait, I
Wait, what
spent
happened?
what for what?
And that's true. And it's just, and often, how often is it just communication
Yeah,
or lack thereof? And
yes,
that's what I find even in the books. And it's same kind of a concept is it's that communication piece that you're not speaking the same language. I said, trying to train this puppy, we have to figure out how to communicate here a little bit
yeah,
better. And
exactly.
that's kind of where we're going here too, is we've got to be able to communicate with the business owners that we're working with so
I
that we are
agree.
on the same page. Because as a team, you've got to be all pulling the same direction or you're
I
never going to
agree.
get there.
Yeah, I totally
And
agree.
that's
And
part of
we're
it.
not perfect. I'm not perfect. I
Neither am
my
I.
client said it just wasn't a good mix, and it just
No.
happens.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna cry over spilt soup, but I realize now that just helps me for the next client, or that helps
Mhm.
me for the next situation.
Exactly. And it's just one step at a time.
Yeah,
I always say, how do you eat the elephant? You eat it one bite at a time. And that's what we're going to do is we're going to take some baby steps.
yeah,
We're going to work through these books. We're going to work through seeing what we can do. We're going to work through together. And I'm going to do it with you. And then we're going to decide whether you want me to take a piece on it or you're ready to take a piece on it or what do we need to do to figure
yeah,
out the direction
yeah.
we're going. But in the back door, bottom line is this is part of our business, just like the websites. It's part of becoming a successful business owner.
I
And it is
agree.
that investment. And you want to partner with folks that can help you to do that. And I know I'm going to pop your website up here because this is your website. And I want to encourage those that come back. And I know we have some people popping in and out. I've seen the numbers kind of bouncing around a little bit. So thank you for those that have joined us live. I know that a lot of folks end up catching the replay afterward. So for those that do, make sure you check out and go check out go check her website out too and see what's going on there. But I think in addition to that, you have been gracious enough to offer a little lead magnet, how I call it, a little gift for our viewers.
Yes,
So I'm going to go ahead and drop that up there as well. And I am also going to go ahead and put that into the chat window as well. So
perfect.
we can see what that is. So I am
A
going to
bunch
do
of
that.
freebies here and there, and My caveat here is that we're still in the process of updating a couple things, but it's a bunch of freebies there that hopefully will help you in regards to websites and that type of thing.
That's awesome. That is awesome. And I want to thank you so much for being willing to do that. I have dropped that over into the chat so that it is there. Go grab your free copies and get a chance to learn from the experts and get a chance. Because as we said, she's a webmaster extraordinaire. I've got it right this time. As we are going. But yes, absolutely, Katrina. Thank you so much. Is there any other things that you got? One last little tip that we may have forgotten as we were kind of getting off onto having some fun here?
Like we said, just think of it this way. Your website is your number one VP, president, CEO of your business, and it works 24/7. So make it that way and make it to the point where it's that important to you.
Perfect. So well said. So summed up. And I want to thank you so much for joining me. And I want to thank each and every one of you that have joined us in here, because it is your time to excel. And we want to encourage that, and we want to inspire and ignite the possibilities, because there's lots of them out there. Just sometimes we don't know the direction that we're going in. So as I said, it's time to excel. So enjoy this. Have a chance to go check out those freebies. Take full advantage of that. Remember, you can just jump right on over there. It is in the chat there. Grab those golden nuggets. Take full advantage of them and get started so that your website can start building leads, clients, and representing you 24/7. So thank you each and everyone for joining us. Thank you so much, Katrina, for joining me as well. Had a great time. I look forward to our continued journey and this chaos that we have decided to call life and business. But it's nice to have friends along the way to join us and come alongside of us and share strengths. So welcome again, everybody. And thank you guys. Tune in next week. Next week, of course, is our virtual lunch and learn, where we have an opportunity to do a little bit of networking, a little bit of training as well. And this particular one is going to be on time management. So I will be sharing my version of time management, which has an awful lot to do. It looks like a budget. Surprise, surprise. Anyone that knows me on that one. Just a little different way of looking at it that I love to share and get an opportunity to take a look at that. So I invite you guys back. Join us next week. As I said, it's our special one because it is our lunch and learn. It's 11:30 to 12:30. Make sure you put it on your calendars, and we'll see you guys next week. Take care.